Coming up on The Breakdown, Leinster welcomed back Brian O'Driscoll and Leo Cullen as they hosted the Ospreys in Dublin. It was an Irish derby in Galway as Connacht took to the pitch against Munster. And Toulouse were looking to stretch their lead in the top 14 as they travelled to Minnows, Bordeaux. Hello and welcome to the show. Joined in studio today by Neil Francis, who will be giving us his thoughts on the weekend's action a little bit later on. First up, the top of the table clash between Leinster and the Ospreys at the RDS. John Forrest, how's your commentary?
Watch again here. I think this is kind of gravity. He didn't want to spear him there. The way he picked him up just above knee height, and your body is top heavy, and the top end of your body is going to. So when you lift somebody up, it'll fall over, and it looked like a spear, but it wasn't a spear.
And in fact, and you see this a lot from Welsh teams. Jones, who was also in that little triangle of players, his job was to catch the tackle player and help bring him down to ground. It's a tactic they use because then Jones can then attack the ball. Yeah. So it was by no means a spear tackle. It was not intended to be a spear tackle. Yeah. It was given, I think, as a dangerous tackle. There just doesn't seem to be any consistency. And yet, you look at that, and Maffey gets away with a verbal warning. Yeah. Here's an example of the way things are going in the French top 14. If you listen to the call, this is all supposed to be standardised. Referees are supposed to be told these sorts of things. Listen to the call.
Stop entry.
There is no gap between pause and engage. And as a result, look at the front rows. They pop up. I mean, and there's just no logic to it. And it is killing the game, there's no question. Can you imagine taking somebody along to the sports ground in Galway, saying, I'm going to take you off to your first rugby match, and come along, you'll enjoy it. And then that poor person has to sit in the stands, in a driving rain and have a look at a scrum for 8 minutes. It makes absolutely no sense.
So, you're absolutely right.
Right, we're going to have to leave the referee bashing there. Let's take a look at some of the other results from this weekend. A good win there for Ulster away from home to Treviso, but it was a late Darcy try that sealed the win for them there. Some great rugby to look forward to coming up on Setanta in the next week. First up, it's a top 14 double-header on Saturday. The early kick-off is Biarritz against Clermont. That's from 1 o'clock, Setanta Sports 1. Followed by Stade Francais against Toulouse, live from 3:10 on Saturday, Setanta Sports 1. And then Matt and Neil are back on The Breakdown. Highlights and analysis of the Rabo and Top 14, including the big one, of course, Leinster and Munster. That's on Sunday at 5 o'clock. Right, that's our show for this week. Thanks for your company. But before we end off, let's spare a thought for those who not only watch the scrummaging fiasco that's unfolding in rugby, but have to talk about it too.
Puts it again by Murphy. Oh, I give up.
Nightmare second day for Rory McIlroy as he drops 8 shots at the Open. Blow for Tyrone as Stephen O'Neill is ruled out of the Ulster football final. And staying put, Liverpool manager Roy Hodgson says Gerrard and Torres are not for sale. Plenty of soccer and GAA in the programme, with Sen and Connell joining us to look ahead to a great weekend of football action. We'll also look back at today's stage in the Tour de France. Plus, later in the show, Conor Morris will be joined by Brian Kerr, inter-county referee Dickie Murphy, and Owen McDevitt from News Talks Off the Ball. They'll be reviewing the week's top sporting stories. But we start at St Andrews on day 2 of the Open, and what a difference a day makes for Rory McIlroy. A record breaker yesterday, he came back to earth with a bump on a day when the wind played havoc on the old course. Well, that's it for part 2 of the show, but stay tuned because after the break, Conor Morris is in the chair. He'll be joined by a panel of experts to look back at the week's top sports stories.